the stuff. I'll just do a brief introduction, and then we'll get into the first presentation. First of all, I'd like to say we acknowledge that the City of Vancouver is situated on the unceded traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. And I'd like to just say a few words about City Hall Watch. Myself, I work as a freelance translator, Japanese to English, on the topic of environment, sustainability, climate change, and so on. I've been doing that for 30 years or so. I'm the founder and co-founder of City Hall Watch. We've been going for the last 15 years in City of Vancouver as a bit of a watchdog for the City of Vancouver. We take the citizens' perspective, the neighborhood perspective, do analysis, research, and try to just give more power and support to the communities in dealing with the municipality. I used a bit of AI for this presentation preparation, and you might find it kind of interesting. This is the first time City Hall Watch has done a Zoom presentation like this, and we just find that some things come so quickly with the City of Vancouver. New policies and decisions suddenly appear, and often the public has just a matter of days or sometimes even hours to respond. Often very complex, jargonistic issues. And if this works with this discussion here today about the Vancouver City bylaw, we'd like to give this a try for other things in the future. I'd also like to do a report of this meeting and share it with people, and perhaps even write a little bit of a bigger analysis. And if people are interested in co-writing that, to be kind of interested in, please let me know if you'd be interested in that. So we have a huge topic tonight. I would like to ask if you can everyone see each other on the screen? If you can, yeah. First of all, I invite you to use the chat. If you'd like to ask questions or provide links or information, just put it in the chat and we'll collect it at the end. I've also got, you'll have an opportunity to speak in the second half. And I've also asked Evelyn Jacob from Vancouver here to keep an eye on the chat, and at a certain point in the second half to just highlight some of the things, the questions or the points that she's observed. So, okay, sound good? And the main purpose of tonight is to gather input for the current process that the City of Vancouver is engaged in. There's a survey online that ends on May 30th. They're reviewing the Vancouver noise bylaw, and they're planning to come back to City Council in the fall with the recommendations from the public. I've discovered in the last few days that the issue of noise is, the Vancouver City bylaw is just the very tip of the iceberg, and there's much more. It seems like there's a lot of interesting news stuff these days about even noise and the sonic spectrum of the environment, how different species are getting knocked out, different frequencies are disappearing as climate change evolves. So the humans are a part of the whole sonic spectrum in a way. So for today, first half intro and presentations, I'll introduce the speaker, each person as they come up. There's Arlene Bronzaft, Elvira Lount, and Jeffrey Blair. And then we have a few other short ones. I see Holly Hayes there that Elvira will introduce. Then we'll have a bit of a discussion, free-flowing with a number of questions there. And we can go past 8 p.m. if some people would like to continue with afterwards. Okay, I'd like to dedicate this presentation to the ear because this is really the ultimate destination of all the sound and noise that we're talking about. This is just a little slide showing the items that the City of Vancouver has listed in its consultation, list of noise from specific sources, and the icon there, each one represents something. I wonder, so if in the chat, if you'd like to, each person just type in what their top 1 or 2 noise related issues are. And just so we have that in there. I also, here's where I used Chat GPT. I just asked artificial intelligence, what are the 40 common noise complaints And within a second, I've got a list of 40. And probably, I suspect that many of yours concerns would be in here. Anyway, I found it quite interesting because I'm starting to use ChatGPT for translation as well. I think it's a game changer. So 40 common noise complaints. We'll come up with some of them today. And this is just just a preview slide from the City of Vancouver's consultation that's showing the decibel levels. Besides the emotional side of noise, there's also a very scientific side. And I know that many of our people participating, including the speakers tonight, are some top world-class experts on these topics. But I just wanted to give a general overview here. This is just the schedule of the engagement on the bylaw review for Vancouver, showing that we're now in May with May is the public engagement, and then it'll come back to council in the fall. This is just a cover page of the Vancouver City bylaw. I went through it the last couple of days. It's very jargonistic, and I think the city is going to rewrite it to be more up to date and understandable. We put a lot of links on the webpage for this event. Elvira's been sending me all kinds of resources. We've got a paper there from Arlene, some from recommendations for City of Vancouver. I just would like to read this part out loud. This is the ultimate bottom line of the Vancouver Noise Control Bylaw, Article number 3. No person shall make or cause or permit to be made or caused any noise or sound in a street, park, or similar public place which disturbs or tends to disturb unreasonably the quiet, peace, rest, enjoyment, comfort, or convenience of persons in the neighborhood or vicinity. So it sounds beautiful, but when it comes down to actual enforcement and the details of objective criteria, it gets very messy, I think. Also, just in the last few days discussing this with Elvira, I'm kind of new to all this, but I realized that there's a huge hodgepodge of regulations. Vancouver City, the noise bylaw is just one fraction of all of the rules and regulations that are involved here in the City of Vancouver. For example, the Broadway subway noise is not really regulated by the City of Vancouver, but by the province. So maybe some people could, if you're aware of that here, you might comment later. I just almost done on my part here, but I asked also ChatGPT 5 reasons why we need a noise bylaw. And I'll share this PowerPoint later on the website, but within a second, it gave me this. Protecting public health and well-being, maintaining the quality of life, promoting harmonious neighbor relations, supporting economic development, and preserving environmental balance. It came out quite nicely within a second. So it could tend to make people like me lazy. Then I asked 5 reasons why the city should not have a noise bylaw. And it was quite interesting. It came up with this. It took a little longer to give me the result, but it was still just a few seconds. And I expect the ruling party in the City of Vancouver now, ABC Vancouver, which is much more pro-development and pro-business, may use some of these in its own arguments. But we'll see. Personal freedom and individual rights, difficulty in enforcement, variability of noise tolerance, impact on nightlife and cultural activities, and economic implications. So it's quite interesting it came up with that. And I think that's all for my part here. As a bit of an introduction for tonight, now I think on the agenda, I now pass it over to Elvira. Is that right? Oh, to Arlene. Oh, you're muted, Elvira.
Can't hear me now?
Yeah, why don't you get Arlene going, and I'll make a few references to some of the guests here when I give my talk.
Okay, great. So I'll just quickly introduce Arlene, who is kindly joining us from New York. It's already quite late there, so we wanted to get her on first.
It's okay.
Yeah, so thank you for joining.
Thank
Arlene,
you. Can you get out of screen share, Randy?
Oh, yes, okay. I should just introduce briefly Arlene here, environmental psychologist and long-term researcher, writer, and consultant on the effects of noise on mental and physical health over 5 decades. In her hometown of New York City, she has been continuously appointed by 5 New York City mayors to the board of Grow near NYC, where she oversees its noise activities and assisted in the 2007 revision of New York City's noise code. And she's also a board member of Vancouver's Right to Quiet Society. And we've got one of her papers on the website as well. Thank you, Arlene. Over to you.
Thank you.
There you go.
Okay, I can talk. You hear me? Well, it's nice to have David Owens at the very beginning cite my landmark research. You know that I did the studies of the train next to the school that intruded on the children's learning. Other than finding out that noise intrudes on children's learning, the important part of that study was the second part, that we were able to lessen the noise. The Transit Authority tested out a procedure on the tracks to make them less noisy, and the Board of Ed put acoustical tiles in the ceilings. And then when I went back to the school after the 2 abatements, because public officials said we spent the money, did it work? And it turned out that now children on the noisy side, former noisy side, were reading at the same level as children on the quiet side. I think the importance of that study showed that we could do something about the noise. It isn't a matter of ways, it's will. I don't think that study was needed. If you walked into the classroom, you knew it was noisy and you should have done something. The plus is that after one study, action was taken that affected not only that school, but schools, also other schools in New York City. And in my discussion with the TA, they agreed to use that procedure on the track throughout the city. Now that was done nearly 50 years ago, which meant actions can be taken. And that's the serious problem with noise. The ways are there. We know how to quiet aircraft noise. We really do. We know how to quiet construction noise. It's the will that is lacking. And that will has to come from public officials. And unfortunately, we do not have that in the US. We once had at EPA, Office of Noise Control, the United States was way ahead on how to abate noise, the dangers of noise. And even in the 70s, the people who headed the EPA said, look, maybe a few more studies are needed, but we have enough now to do something about it. And that's really the key thing. I'm not going to go through all the studies. There are many studies now that link noise to adverse impacts on the health, mental and physical of humans. We also are harming other species, and we also are harming green life. The key thing now is, what do we do to abate the noise? And that's where governments are sadly lacking. Now, in terms of New York City, I do urge people to go to the Department of Environmental Protection and look at our noise code. New York happens to be somewhat unique in that it has a special agency dedicated with its own agents, not police, its own agents to go out and try to correct some of the problems. Other areas are done by the police. And when it comes to homes, if your neighbor is noisy, you have a lease which stipulates that you're entitled to reasonable quiet. And as a result, your landlord has to handle it. Now, people say New York's noisy city, but it was New York City back in the 1930s that paid attention to noise. With all due respect to other cities envisioning our city as being noisy, and yes, we still have cars zooming by, we have at least made an effort for many years to try to lower the decibel level. And that's where I think New York City should be seen as an example. Now, in terms of passing laws, the former mayor Bloomberg and I had somewhat of a dispute. He was very excited when we updated the noise code, and I was very much involved in that. And then I said to the press, yes, it's updated, not ideal, but still an improvement, but it has to be enforced. He was a little angry that I brought that up at the moment it was being released, but he is a wise man, and he and his people apologized to me 2 weeks later and said, Arlene, you're right. Enforcement is key. And that's where cities lack, and I'm sure Vancouver as well. One of the areas very hard to enforce is how do you get a car that's booming down the street and going through the the light with a loud sound. There is a new procedure now. New York is one of the cities that's testing it out, where we have speed cameras. We now are looking at noise cameras. It's more difficult to identify the car with the noise because if there's another car next to it, its sound may be added. So it's a more sophisticated technique to design a meter that will actually measure the sound level and issue a violation. We haven't had that much success yet, but I'm waiting for the report. Other cities around the world have done it. Now, Vancouver wants to look at how they can lessen noise in their city. They're going to be conducting a survey, hoping people will come up with ideas and suggestions, and then look at that and come out with recommendations. And these recommendations should be then tested. The important thing in doing a survey is knowing the questions to be asked that will actually yield the information that you're looking for. This takes professionalism. And once you come out with the answers that you think, that represent the people, you then come up with recommendations of how these suggestions could be implemented. And then you should do just a pilot study and see if they work. The important thing about a pilot study is that you can give yourself 2 or 3 months' time and see if indeed using these suggestions led to ways to lower the noise level actually, and see if that works. So I support the idea of the survey coming up with ways that could remedy this situation in engaging the citizens, but make sure that when you come up with some recommendations, they are first pilot tested and set up the criteria by you will have some success. And that's really essentially it. The important thing, of course, is enforcement. And whatever city I deal with, and I don't just deal with cities in the US and Canada, I also work with people in Australia, New Zealand, Europe. The enforcement is key. And that's where sometimes we need a separate agency. We have to depend on the police. New York, as I said, is somewhat unique, and that has its own agents. Let me add one other thing. A couple of years ago, the state controller looked at the 311 calls. Noise was high on the list. But what he found, most of the calls just got dumped. There was no solution. There was no action. And this was the state controller's assessment of how New York City handled 311. Somewhat embarrassing to the city, I would say, but their response was quite good. They increased the number of agents at the Department of Environmental Protection, hoping that that would at least address more of the complaints. So I am willing to work with the people of Vancouver. I know Elvira knows this. I am half Canadian. Did you know that? Yes? That my family's from Toronto. And so
Yes.
I'm working with people who I lived in Toronto as a child for a short time as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Arlene. We're going to have to.
You, please.
We better move on.
Okay, that's it.
Okay. Thank you so much, Arlene. That's wonderful.
Yes, thank you very much, Arlene. It was precious input and specifically focused at Vancouver. So I hope that City of Vancouver and the rest of us will be able to stay in touch with you as this goes forward. Yeah, so thank you very much. So next we have Elvira who's going to speak for a few minutes.
Jeffrey.
Oh, Jeffrey's next. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, sorry about that.
We changed it.
Okay. So Jeffrey is joining here now. And where's my introduction? Oops.
Let me get some water.
Oh. Uh-oh.
Don't worry, we're ready.
Okay. All right, Jeffrey is in Vancouver, right?
That's right.
Okay, in Surrey, okay. Jeffrey is a retired pediatric surgeon who for more than 30 years worked at the BC's Children's Hospital, where he was the surgeon in chief from 2001 to 2010. Currently UBC clinical professor, he teaches surgery at the medical school. As an advocate for environmental protections and especially with concerns for the welfare of all children, he has helped to inject climate issues into the school's curriculum. And he has also lobbied for years for a ban on gas-powered lawn equipment in the city of Vancouver. And highly recommended panel member from Elvira. And thank you for joining us, Jeffrey, and it's over to you now.
Well, thank you, Randy, and thank you, Elvira, for inviting me. And imagine this. Imagine this, I've said to city councilors here in Vancouver, knock at your door, and you open your door, and there's a person standing there saying, hello, good afternoon. I'm wondering if I can use my machine here within a few meters of your house periodically for an indefinite amount of time. This machine, I'm compelled to tell you, is going to spew out a number of different harmful chemicals, 3 of which are known cancer-producing chemicals. It's going to have the polluting power of driving 11 cars at the same time, or if you prefer, an hour of operation is equivalent to driving a Ford pickup truck from Vancouver to Florida. But that aside, you might notice some noise that frequently will arise to 100 decibels, which is approaching that of a jet engine. It will be unpredictable in its range and volume and output. So it won't be rhythmic at all. It'll be sort of intermittent, and you won't be able to sort of tune into it or tune out to it very easily. It may also, it's been shown to perhaps annoy the local bird population, except for maybe the crows. I wonder, could I have permission to please do that? Oh, and I should also tell you that it's going to also aerosolize dog feces, and you will be breathing dog feces particles in. Is that okay if I use this machine from now until, well, who knows when? Now, who in their right mind was, oh yeah, go ahead. But that's what we're doing in Vancouver. I mean, we all know, and I've seen in the chat line here, the leaf blowers have been in the listings. Gas-powered leaf blowers are notorious for their annoying noise, which often exceeds 100 decibels. It's been shown that prolonged exposure to such noise, and Arlene has alluded to this, can have detrimental effects on mental health, sleep patterns, overall quality of life for individuals. As a sufferer myself of noise-induced hearing loss and noise-induced tinnitus, it can cause those things. And not just to the operators, to people nearby. Now, so there's harm to hearing. Furthermore, studies have shown that these particular machines, these gas-powered machines, emit a particularly penetrating low frequency noise, which can actually travel distances of up to 800 meters and have penetrating ability through walls. It sounds almost supernatural. And such noises have been associated with the development of high blood pressure and other cardiovascular diseases. So it leads to rather major health issues. And yet, every Tuesday, if you're so inclined, you can go by the GF Strong Rehabilitation Hospital, which is only meters away from BC Children's Hospital, where I worked, and BC Women's Hospital. And you'll hear on Tuesday morning for hours on end, not one, but two gas-powered leaf blowers clearing the grounds around GF Strong. And I only can feel pity for for the people in those institutions, those sick children, and women, and even fetuses, and people undergoing rehab at GF Strong that have to suffer through that because it's actually making them sicker. Now, we have the ability, of course, to have rakes and electric lawn equipment. We don't need to use these machines. They're felt as being convenient, and we're addicted to our lawns. But why do we tolerate them? There's every and multiple reasons where you don't need artificial intelligence to list them, actually, Randy. Many, many good reasons to transition away from their use. It would promote a healthier biodiversity in our urban environment. We should maybe look into native landscaping, and that's a whole other topic to think about. Maybe we shouldn't be blowing the leaves at all. We should perhaps leaving the leaves where they are. Mother Nature probably does that for a reason, drops leaves on the ground. So in summary, they should be banned. Now, in early 2022, Vancouver City Council passed a motion that, and I quote here, directs the city staff to report back with recommendations to meet the goal to phase out and transition personal and commercial use of gasoline-powered landscape maintenance equipment in the city of Vancouver by 2024. So basically what they voted unanimously for was saying to the city staff, study this. Study a way that we can perhaps do this in 2024. And the bill, which was passed, was called the Towards a Quieter and Emission-Free Landscape Maintenance Equipment Future in Vancouver. This is needed, but I tell you, whether it be through watchdog organizations like Randy's or others, just as citizens, we have got to keep the pressure on to do this. Who isn't annoyed by gas-powered leaf blowers and other machines like this? And we have the capabilities to get rid of them. So I say to citizens of Vancouver, come on, this is actually low-hanging fruit in terms of noise and pollution. If we cannot enact a ban on these harmful and annoying machines, such as actually now more than 100 American cities have already banned them, including Washington, D.C. and Oakland, California, and many other places, then I, for one, am truly afraid if we cannot deal with this low-hanging, annoying, polluting nuisance, then I'm not sure we can do anything to help our environment. So I'll leave you with that, and I'm looking forward to discussion.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Yes, for sure. The leaf blowers are a major sound that carry many blocks. I've noticed even electric ones pretty high level of noise as well. But
they do. I've got here just in case you want to. I recorded. That was recorded 50 meters away from one just up my block, and every day I'm hearing this. Every day. Electric ones are a bit higher frequency. They don't have the low frequency sound that is penetrating. But you're right, Randy. They are noisy as well. Yeah. And aerosolized dog feces.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. That's to be continued on that topic. We can come back to that during the discussion if people like to. So thank you for your time. So Elvira, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. I think, so the next we're going to do is talk quickly about construction noise. And I would like to just, Elvira was looking at the time, it's running tight. So first, I would like to do this though, but I'll just curtail it a bit. We've got a video. I just would like to preface that with this here, it can see the screen now, share screen. This is from a City Hall Watch post. It's showing up, Elvira? Good, okay.
Yes, it's there, yeah.
Okay, so I'd just like to point out that there's, in a moment, I'll just show a portion of a video on YouTube about noise on Broadway subway construction. But there's the Vancouver plan, Broadway plan, West End community plan, Marpole plan, Grandview Woodland community plan, downtown East Side, and many more. We're expecting hundreds and hundreds of towers to be going up around the city with the way that the already approved planning processes, and there's just the city is being overwhelmed with rezoning and development applications. And the current majority is all in favor of reducing all barriers basically and accelerating approvals and construction in the city. So I think this is going to be an issue. So I'm just going to click onto the video. It's a 3-minute video of noise along the Broadway subway, but I won't show the whole thing, and we'll share the link later on. So here we go, just for about a minute of it to give you a taste.
I can't relax in my own home. At best, I'll get 5 hours sleep.
It feels like a noisy nightmare for a man who works and lives here, right next to construction for the Broadway subway. He says it's made him physically sick, and he can only stay so many days before he has to escape the area. You can hear the difference from the hallway to the apartment.
The bridge was vibrating like a large drum where it connected to the road, and that went on for 2 months. Every time a truck or a bus drove over top of the bridge, was hitting about 100 decibels in my apartment here. It was like a constant drumming all day, every day. It was completely maddening.
Carl Prevost rents a commercial space on the 2nd floor, then comes home to this. Prevost says construction has started as early as 5 a.m. or ended at 2 a.m. This video recorded at 10:30 p.m. Tuesday. On Wednesday, this decibel reader hit 83, and Prevost says it gets louder at night when crews pull out the heavy equipment. He complained to the city of Vancouver, which told him the provincial project.
Okay, I think you get the idea there. We'll put the link up on the City Hall Watch webpage for this meeting if people would like to see the rest of it. The total is 3 minutes. But I know along the Arbutus, where I live close to, there's a fully loaded tandem dump trucks going by right now with Broadway, carrying soil from the Broadway subway excavation. Every 10, 15 minutes, there's heavy dump trucks going by. And I think this is going to multiply across the city, as I mentioned. I think people have already experienced a lot of this over the years. So that is on the construction noise. Next, over to Elvira.
Hi.
Are you there?
See me and hear me?
I can hear you. I can't see you. You think you're on a different screen. Okay, there you go. First,
I want to thank Arlene for coming in. If you could hang on, Arlene, till I finish showing my little video, that would be great. I know you have an early morning tomorrow, and I just wanted to acknowledge some of the guests that we have here today, including Carl Robb, who is the Vice President of Right to Quiet Society, and I was on their board for almost 2 years. We also have Jan Mays, who is an audiologist and researcher. She's written an excellent paper on what she thinks the city should do, which is to lower the permissible decibel levels for our health. And that will be uploaded into the chat, and it's available on City Hall Watch. And I hope that Jan can speak a few minutes in the discussion. Also, we have Evelyn Jacob from the, I think it's the North Kits Residents Association.
It's actually the Upper Kits Residents.
Upper Kit.
Yeah.
And Neil Ireland from A Beach for Everyone, and that's Holly Hayes' group. She'll be speaking right after me. And Nathan Davidowitz, he's a transit commentator on Van Pally a lot. And Bonnie McKenzie's from the West, and she's on the board of the West End Community Center. I hope that, and everybody else who's here that I didn't mention, that's great. So I'm going to show first, my focus today is on music in our parks, amplified music in our parks, illegal amplified music in our parks, buskers, party boats, and special event noise. So that's a lot to cover in a few minutes. So I put together a little video, and after that I will be uploading a doc into the chat that summarizes all the city and park board bylaws and regulations that deal with these issues. So I'll start that video if everybody could mute, and I have to screen share. So let's see.
Just have your ears ready. The sound volume maybe need adjusting.
Okay. Where is my video here? Oh, why can't I see this on the screen? Basic. Shows my desktop. Oh.
There we go.
Okay. So I apologize in advance for some of the very loud noise in this. Not my fault.
When the night has come,
We aren't even halfway there. Keep going. We got Red Belt. He's making his way. This ain't nothing for him. Making his way downtown.
Of amplified music at Kits Beach, and party boat noise and Jericho beach raves, all of which are illegal under our city and park bylaws. In the city of Vancouver, buskers need a permit. They can't have amplification for voice, and only certain instruments can have amplification. There is no amplified music allowed in our parks unless the general manager has permitted it. And we have special events that are way over the decibel levels, and they are not monitored. But I'm going to upload a document of all the summary of the noise bylaws for parks and the city and busker regulations. And I'd like to introduce Holly Hayes, who is Managing Director of Beach for Everyone. And we've worked quite closely on trying to deal with these beach noise issues. And it's a Beach for Everyone is a local nonprofit. It emerged during the pandemic in response to the decline in local beach culture. Holly advocates for reconnecting with nature to improve your quality of life and appreciating the natural world in its pure form. She has been strategic in fostering community connections, relationships with the park board, local media, and grassroots initiatives to expand the organization's reach and impact.
Hello, everyone. I am Holly Hayes, the Managing Director of A Beach for Everyone. I've just put on the screen here, this is our website. This is the link here. This is who we are. This is what we do. We really believe that our beaches should be respected by everyone. Is that happening? Not really, as I'm going to speak about in the next 4 minutes. We were born out of the pandemic, and I want to share a little bit more about what we've discovered since then. So we believe our beaches are our safe haven, and they really should be a welcoming place for everyone who wants to enjoy the activities that the beach and nature have to offer. People should be respectful of the environment, which we've not seen in the last few weeks, have we, with what's been making the mainstream media, with everyone leaving their rubbish behind? And are they being respectful of their fellow beachgoers? Not really. If you tune into the news, you'll also see really disrespectful, dangerous behavior, and of the residents that live nearby, which obviously the biggest impact is noise, which we're going to talk about today. So our focus, we do have many, but for the purpose of this webinar, I'm going to focus on this one. Problems with excessive noise, loud amplified music. So I'm echoing everything Elvira just said. Dance, drinking parties, disorderly conduct. And our aim is to work with decision-making bodies to ensure that our beaches are a safe place where everyone feels respected. That's our mission, but let's be real for a second. Beach noise is a symptom of a much larger problem. And I think everybody's touched on this today in their own way. And here's a couple of things that are really going on. So there's a lack of proper signage in the area. Now, I saw an interesting article this week, which I did share on our Twitter, just using Wreck Beach as an example. And they were saying about how there's people going down there to deliberately photograph nudists. And basically that there's signage. Yeah, sure. It says no photography allowed, but that's also on the sign where it says no drinking and no smoking and all the other things that nobody pays attention to. So the first thing, there's a lack of proper signage. There's increasing disrespect for each other. The environment, surrounding community, it's totally on the rise. And that's why we were born out of the pandemic, because everyone was pushed outdoors. And then everyone just thought it was a free-for-all on our beaches. And the thing is, it's very clear that people are more disrespectful when there are no clear consequences. And why is that? Because there's a lack of enforcement. So for those that don't know, as per the Vancouver Charter, item 496, employees are to have special powers. A person employed by the park board as a warden, a lifeguard, security guard in parks, while performing a duty in a park, has all the powers and authority of a police constable. So why are we not empowering the park rangers to actually do their job? There is a lack of enforcement. The second thing, while we're talking about park rangers, there's actually a shortage. So Elvira and I were talking about this today. And this actually blew my mind. I mean, I knew that there was a shortage of park rangers, but I didn't know that they were so thinly spread. So I put this in bold here, all being well, because when is ever all being well in our city? There are 10 rangers scheduled at any one time. That's 2 for English Bay and surrounding areas. So we are actually a West End based organization. So Elvira and I often connect about what's going on either side of the bridge. So 2 for English Bay and surrounding areas, 2 for Western Beaches, 2 for the downtown east side, 2 for east, central and south, and 2 roving rangers. Now, when I say all being well, and I've been told this directly by the park board, if there is an event or some sort of an emergency happening at one of those jurisdictions, there's going to be rangers pulled from other areas. So I can count on probably one hand the amount of times I've seen the park rangers actually at English Bay, because no doubt there's more, emergency situations happening in other areas of the city. So again, just to reiterate what Elvira had to say, buskers and amplified noise. So this is one of the reasons why our organization started, because there's lots of illegal busking happening. And it's not just the fact that a busker's popping up and maybe playing for 2 hours, but as an example, last weekend, you got 4 buskers playing all at once, competing for the audience, and all of the sound going over the top of each other, including a bagpiper, so need I say more, that plays for 2 hours. So the park board actually did complete this observational study at the end of last summer, and I'm having some technical issues too, so I'm going to actually pop it in the chat right now, just so you can access it, because I know you'll be eager to have a look at it. It's really interesting what they found at the end of last summer. So you can go and have a look at that report there, and definitely get in touch with me about what you think. And finally, I just want to wrap up by saying, if you think it's noisy now, particularly if you do live in the West End, right now there is a 30-year plan in the works for what's going to be rolled out on our parks, beaches, and connections to and through the West End waterfront. So I really, really encourage you. I know there's so many surveys open right now, and there's also the one on noise. And I think maybe coincidence, all these surveys are happening at once. Can we really keep up with what is happening? So I really encourage you, actually, Neil and I, which is why I'm at Neil's place, he's just in the other room, because we actually went down to Cactus Club tonight to meet with the planners. This was actually the last chance, although they did say there's another one happening on May 20th, but it's not, that doesn't reflect on the website. We actually did go down to meet with the planners to chat with them about the design. So I would really, really encourage you, even if you don't live in the West End, I mean, this is going to affect all of us ultimately. Please do share your opinions. And yeah, just have a good look at the design that they're bringing forward, because there's going to be lots more noise that they want to push out, and they want to take away our access to the beach. So finally, thank you. Please do connect with us. We are really passionate about noise. If you can like, follow, share, subscribe to our newsletter, follow our page. If you have any questions after you read that report, please give me a shout. My email is there. And thank you. I wanted to keep it short because I know we're running over time.
Thank you very much, Elvira, and thank you, Holly. Elvira, would you like to conclude this portion? Did you have something more, or should I read the one quote? Oh, can't hear you now.
Neighborhood noise quote, yeah.
Oh, okay, I'll just read one quote. Then we'll do a soft close, but continue for anyone who is able to continue. So here we go. This is just a message we got. This is the one, Elvira, correct, right? This is just a letter that Elvira got when we were preparing, but from Maggie, letter to the City of Vancouver for as an example of neighborhood noise to the City of Vancouver. Please take seriously when there is a noise complaint and truly enforce noise complaints, enforcement issue. For years, I've been complaining about noise in Kitsilano that constantly does not adhere to the noise bylaws, and parties late into the morning hours on weekends in their backyard, spills into the back lane, screaming, yelling, howling because they're drinking still until 3 a.m. They saw and cut wood and hammer and drill on Sundays and holidays all day while we have to have our windows open because of the heat. We are not able to enjoy our home peacefully. I have filed complaints, called the police, and it never seems to be taken seriously. Others in the neighborhood have also complained about this house and the total disregard of the people living in that house. It's a 12-bedroom house with many people living. They're constantly making excessive noise. Why does the city not do anything about it? It's maddening to say the least. Please enforce the bylaws in the city. Thank you, Maggie. That was one comment about neighborhood noise. I think, so we would, we've gone till 8 o'clock. Typically a lot of time with the presentations. Anyone is welcome to stay on beyond this for 30 minutes or more even, just to discuss more. I think enforcement is a big issue.
I wondered if Jan would like to say a few words about your study, Jan.
Oh, Jan, okay.
Yeah, I'm a retired audiologist, and I've written a couple of papers and articles, not my own research, but reviewing the available research on non-occupational noise risk, mainly to speech communication being blocked, also blocking disability access, as well as I mainly focus on hearing health damage, but of course there's lots of other health problems as well, which have been pointed out. I guess the key things that I would say is that, you know, we know that noise is bad, but some of the newer information that people maybe aren't as aware of, especially as it applies to children and teens, is that noise can damage their central auditory processing systems and their cognition, so that it can permanently stunt their brain development. Without causing any measurable hearing loss. It might be picked up on other types of more sensitive tests. So a lot of the time when we're talking about noise, we're not talking about the brain health of children and teens where their hearing systems aren't fully developed yet, and they need more natural, quieter sound exposures to fully develop and reach kind of proper adult maturity. And again, like with there is hidden hearing loss where noise can cause damage without measurable change in hearing thresholds, but the person can again have trouble understanding speech, tinnitus, decreased sound tolerance, and other types of hearing problems. And again, these are at lower levels where it might not affect an adult or a healthy adult, that would affect a child or teen or other noise sensitive populations, which also includes pregnant people, people who already have hearing loss, tinnitus or hearing problems, people who are chronically ill, that type of thing. Yeah, I don't know if someone has some specific questions on that, but again, the levels that have been looked at in the past are really occupationally based, and they need to be a lot lower to fully protect total health, really, if we don't compartmentalize.
Thank you, Jan. I think some of the latest scientific knowledge should be definitely considered in bylaw, noise bylaw development. So we hope to hear more from you, and I hope the city hears from you as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. So Elvira, are we good to go? It is now 8 o'clock. So I'd just like to give a soft close to everyone. Thank you for joining tonight. And we will do a report. We'll put up more links and try to just support connecting people here. There's a lot of people who are very knowledgeable and some who are very active as well, who have their own websites and stuff. So we'd be happy to post all of that on our webpage and just help to connect people up. And perhaps we'll have another meeting at some point, because this is ongoing with the City of Vancouver discussion.
So, but if anybody wants to say, have anything to say now, and they don't mind staying longer, please. We want to get as many ideas and suggestions out there as possible.
Yeah, we still have actually almost everyone is still connected. We had 45 listed. We had about 28 participating, and we can with this video we just edit it a bit and then make it available people who are not here. So anyone, if you'd like to raise your hand and keep it brief, and let's get as many people as possible. There's Jeffrey, I see your hand up.
Now, Randy, just a question for you and anybody else. What specific items in the noise bylaw would you like to see changed? For instance, there's something about gas leaf blowers that needs to be changed. I can't quote the paragraph, but it's there. It needs to be updated. But what are some of the other specifics within the city's noise bylaw that you and others would like to see changed? Because I think that the councillors need specifics.
Yes, for sure. I went through the whole, well, maybe I'll let other people speak first. If anyone else has actually seen the bylaw and has a specific comment. I think enforcement is a very important part. Just we didn't have time now to really run through the sections, but the bylaw itself, like many laws, starts with definitions, and it has areas of the city with different zones. It defines the time, the starting and ending time of when noise is permitted, and then enforcement. But Arlene, do you have your hand up? And I see Evelyn and Maria also. Arlene, did you want to speak? I can't hear you.
You hear me now?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Let me tell you, the word respect that came up is key. I ended up talking to a church group about noise, and they expected me, the academic, to talk about the effects on human health. What I talked about is the respect people should give to other people, and I actually quoted from the Bible. What you should do is look at the video of that talk, not to listen to me, but to see the face of the Reverend. He was shocked. And let me tell you, in this world, where people are not respectful, you're going to find loudness accompanies it. Respect is key. And if people were courteous to their neighbors, we wouldn't have those complaints. If people didn't blast their radios, if people didn't take their cars booming down the street. In a world where there's little respect, you will have much noise.
And if I could just say something to quickly echo that, it's very true. We talk about respect.
I wrote a paper on it.
Yes. For example, when there was loud music playing and one of the residents came down to the beach and actually said, like, to a group of people with a large amplification, like, hey, you're actually shaking the windows in my building. Do you mind turning that down? They actually were very respectful. There's no awareness. That's the thing. When people are down there, they're only worried about what they're doing and themselves. They're not thinking about other people around them or the neighbors up there. And they can be responsive when people approach them, but we're also worried to do that. And it's also not our job to do that. So I just wanted to echo that. But thank you, Arlene, for saying that about
respect. Thank you.
Thank you both. Yes. Evelyn, did you?
Yeah, I just, I think the thing that bothers me the most, well, a combination of all the sounds is the worst, being downtown in a vacuum with all the stuff going on. But construction, I think, is because there's so much of it in Vancouver, it's just, it really bothers people's mental health. I mean, around like where I live, there's been 1, 2, 3, 4 new houses built right in my back lane, all with laneway houses. And, you know, they start really early. They start work at, I think, 7 or 7:30. And they go till like, I don't know when, 8 o'clock or whatever. Why can't they have like office hours? So when we come home from work, most people, I'm not saying everyone, but a lot of people are 9 to 5 or whatever. Why can't they have the same thing? So we can at least enjoy a little bit of the day in quiet.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. I've also felt, I've suffered from construction noise. I even bought this noise monitor, and I measured construction just a block from my place at like it was like 110 decibels. It was just crazy. But I guess interesting thing will be perhaps with the input and advice of others who are knowledgeable about other jurisdictions, like what are the best solutions? What are the best practices out there for regulating construction, the various types of noise and enforcement? So yeah, so I see Maria's hand up. Would you like to speak? You're muted. There you go, Maria.
Yeah, and okay. I just want to say a couple of things. You know, I want to talk about the amphitheater that you're putting up at Hastings Park, and it was done in a very underhanded way. Like I put on the chat, there was very little consultation with the local community, and it went to council for approval, and there was no noise impact study. It's like installing a mine without an environmental study. It's just ludicrous, and the PNE is kind of as they go along, they're inventing the noise mitigation as they go along, and it's really quite scary. And yeah, so a 10,000 capacity in a residential zone, we already go crazy with the concerts during the fair, but you know, we kind of think, you know, this is the fair, this is kind of our duty or whatever to, you know, to the city. You know, they have the folk fest and they have the jazz fest, even though the concerts at the PNE are louder. But it just, you know, I was at an open house yesterday that the PNE put on at the forum. There was no microphone to speak into. And if we used a microphone, it was worse. We had to shout out our concerns. It's just so crazy how they're undermining us. They're, anyways, I see it happen so much throughout the city of Vancouver. We're not the only community that this has happened to, but you know, I speak to a lot of people who are concerned, and what happened is the residents here, sorry, I stutter a little bit. We've been dragged through the mud. You know, the Hastings Park was supposed to be restored in 1997. It was approved, and then they had it's called the PNE, the Pacific National Exhibition Validating and Enabling Act, and it was passed and enables the city via the PNE to put on concerts and to gamble and to use the park for all these other things. And actually, Hastings Park has the same trust as Beacon Hill Park in Victoria, BC. And you compare those two parks. And so it was found that the trust was being used contrary to its terms, and hence why they were going to restore the park and they bought land out in Surrey. But then there's a change of government, and the government of that time, the provincial, ordered the PNE to sell the land and to start negotiating with the city. And just to give you an example, there was a Hastings Sunrise community visioning process while the city was negotiating with the province, and actually the city wrote every single word of the Enabling Act. We were having a visioning process. What do you want in your community? What do you want to see in your community? And meanwhile, they're negotiating. And also to the slot machines, that casino was being negotiated behind our backs. And meanwhile, they're asking us, what would you like at Hastings Park, and what would you like here, you know? So it's just a lot of people feel like they have fought the war for years and years, and people feel tired, and a lot of people don't know about this issue. So it's been very difficult to arouse people, to get people, what's the word, the impetus, you know, to get people
mobilized, maybe.
Yes, thank you.
Do you have is there a website, or is there an organization or a group of people who are together?
Well, that's the thing, you know, the Hastings Community Association, the community center, they used to be, you know, the voice, and now they're concerned, you know, Donnie Rosa, that was the general manager for the Parks Board, that she left a couple of days ago, I think. They don't want to disturb, you know, rock the boat type of thing. And so they want to be on, you know, on the good side. So, and then I approached our local association, and they don't want to get involved. So there's really no association. Yeah, we're kind of been broken.
Yeah,
we're a broken community.
Well, if
sorry,
just offer, if you'd like to write up, you know, write up a little article, we'd be happy to put it on City Hall Watch, and it'd help to raise awareness. Yeah.
That would be fantastic. I have worked with several people, and they get exhausted from this. I have read back to the 1800s. I've been researching for over 6 months now. I have read documentation after documentation. I'm not much of a speaker though, but yeah, I've got some people that can help me with that.
Sure.
Yeah, and thank you for
yeah. So please do get in touch. Yeah.
Also, Randy, I got one thing I'd like to say. Well, first, before people leave, you should save the chat.
Yes.
Because there's some good documents in there. Yep. But my concern is, what's the agenda behind this review? Is it to tighten or relax the noise bylaws? And I'm concerned about the relaxing part, because one of the questions on the survey is, do you think that construction noise should be going on longer hours during the week and on Sundays and holidays? So I went, who on the earth would think that? But what a question. So I'm just concerned because ABC is the party and the build and party. And I don't, you know, I'm hoping that we end up at the end of this with a better bylaw rather than a worse bylaw. And that we need, like Arlene's suggestion, a separate enforcement agency that will work with the police, because the police do nothing, and that we need more bylaw enforcement officers. Without any of that, why bother? So.
Yes, yeah, I agree that there is it's really something to watch with this ABC majority. They have an absolute majority on City Council right now, and they're all about getting the swagger back in the City of Vancouver, more events, and just more construction. So this is a bit of a threat, I think, to quietness in the city here. I'd also, Jeffrey, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. First of all, Arlene, you're absolutely right. It is about respect, but you can't really legislate respect, unfortunately. You can vote councillors in. It is said, and I believe this, politicians of all ilks have said that they figure that an email or a letter sent to them is worth about 500 votes. So we can vote for the people that espouse the values of noise control and so forth. But in the interim between elections, at a time now, writing letters actually does make a difference. Secondly, I feel your pain, Maria. And it sounds as though, forgive me for saying this, sounds as though you and people who, like myself, are frustrated because we just can't get enough oomph, a critical mass of people that are willing to voice their opinion. You're saying that so-and-so doesn't want to rock the boat. Well, maybe because so-and-so has more respect for the financial aspect of things than they do about the human aspect of things. So one of the frustrations that I had in my solo fight, it seems, against gas-powered leaf blowers, I mean, I've yet to meet anybody who isn't annoyed by those terrible machines. There's a similar annoyance in Toronto, and they have a rather large organization called Gas Busters that are trying their darndest to actually get the Toronto city councillors to ban the machines. But I've tried to link up with people in Vancouver, and when that particular city council meeting was held in early 2022, I was actually the only member of the public in attendance. The only person who spoke, and I spoke against it, and the vote was unanimous, and that's great, good for me, good for them. But whether it be gas-powered leaf blowers or Hastings Park or beaches or whatever, it takes more than just one or two individuals. It takes a group. So Randy, your City Hall watch, I mean, maybe this is a nexus around which people who have noise issues and other issues can rally around and really unite in the fight. What do you have to say about that, Randy?
Sure. Yeah. Well, we with City Hall Watch, it's 100% volunteer effort, but we're just happy to be, just to support community groups and stuff. So we could create a special dedicated page where noise and noise-related information would be shared, and coordinate, cooperate, and notify people when there's opportunities to come up with things, and just empower as many people as possible to become active as well. But Arlene, I see you have your hand up.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. In the United States, medical costs are probably the highest cost next to maybe the military. When it comes to noise, the studies have shown that individuals that live close to airports have an increased risk for cardiovascular disorders and thus require medical attention. It turns out that money is the name of the game in the US. I'm sure it's everywhere. What they worry about are the costs to the airlines and the airports, not to the costs of citizens. I'm talking dollars. We spend probably more money on trying to treat people who are adversely affected by noise, and that must be weighed in. The medical costs in Canada are somewhat handled differently, but it's costly. When people get sick because of noise, when people can't work, when children fall behind in school and need remediation, the name of the game is money. Noise pollution doesn't just harm people, other species, and plants. Noise pollution is costly, and we're losing lots of money. Let me make one point on the construction issue. Do look at the New York City site, Department of Environmental Protection, the noise code. The one thing that it did that I criticized, it recommended quieter construction tools. I would have mandated it, but at least in that site, there was an awareness that as far as construction is concerned, you can find quieter tools. You can use coverings to abate the noise. In other words, there are ways to lessen construction noise. You just don't have the will to employ them.
Very interesting. Where could people get more information about the technologies and equipment that's quieter for construction? Is there, can you provide resources or recommendations or anything? Arlene or anyone? Arlene, can you hear it?
Yes, I hear you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I would suggest go to our website.
Okay.
Go to Department of Environmental Protection, New York City, and look at our noise code.
Okay.
And there are suggestions there.
Okay.
The point is, if you are willing to explore what you could do to lessen the noise, you will find there's a way. Let me say, in the late 1970s, the head of the Noise Control Board in Washington said, we know what to do about it. Do it. Now, if you can say that in the late 70s, my God, this is 2023. My grandchildren criticize me. They say, Grandma, you've been talking about noise for over 50 years. It's still noisy. No one listens to you, so you haven't accomplished much. That's a sad way to be viewed by your grandchildren.
Yeah, yes. But just imagine if you hadn't been active, what it would be like. Yes. I'm also interested, perhaps for future follow-up, but from Arlene and others, always interested in best cases, like looking at in the United States, Canada, and around the world in terms of noise code, noise bylaw, legislation, and enforcement, and education, awareness raising and promoting respect. I'm always interested in the best case examples or good cases that we could then promote in Vancouver. Elvira?
Yes, I would look to Stockholm and the Quiet Parks International. A director of Quiet Parks International has set up a whole program in Stockholm, and he's one of the speakers on an IANAD event that I did organize with Right to Quiet last April 2022. And he has a lot of great ideas, and he talks about some of them on his website. And they have quiet parks in the city, and Quiet Parks International designates quiet parks around the world, but Stockholm has managed to have quiet parks within the city. And again, if we're talking about what our bylaw can do, it can implement areas of the city that are quiet areas, whether they be in parks or residential areas, squares, whatever, where no noise, noise is not permitted, that it can be natural or wild, or in an area of one park. For instance, Kits Beach Park, the whole Vanier Park around the ponds could be designated a quiet beach. A quiet park. We have the foreshore that could be a quiet park, even though now people are bringing amplified music there. But if we're having all this construction in the city, and we don't have quiet spaces to go with it for people to escape to, it will be intolerable.
Mm-hmm. It's an interesting idea, having quiet zones. Even think about during a heat wave, you have cool zones in community centers. You could have places that are designated to be guaranteed to be low certain decibels.
Yes.
Arlene?
People don't realize that there are 3 designated quiet beaches in Vancouver, which is Sunset, Locarno, and West Spanish Banks. And you're not supposed to have any music or not even a radio or a little iPhone or anything. So anyway,
so no enforcement. Yeah, no enforcement.
Yeah, that's always the problem. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. I think we got maybe 5 minutes left of our extended play. Maria, you have a hand up? Oh, I can't hear you.
I just wanted to say that I'm from Portugal, and in Lisbon they have a park called Gulbenkian, and it's a park. It's right like in the center of Lisbon, not quite in the center, it's sort of to the north. But you go along the pathways, and there's these little nooks, and people are reading books. And you go into a cafe, and people are on the computer or reading books, and people picnic, and yeah, it's I think a quiet park, and they have a art gallery in the park, and a little amphitheater. They have symphonies playing, and just like a little tiny little amphitheater. But what I was wanting to say is, Elvira, I agree with you. I think this review of the city Vancouver regarding the noise bylaw, I think it's to relax the noise bylaw.
Yeah.
I am very leery of surveys. Surveys can be manipulated. They can just extract what you want from them, and you can just, do whatever you want with it. And I get a feeling that it's the staff, the senior staff that are running the city of Vancouver in some ways, and feeding the councillors, which don't know very much to begin with. No, that's my view on it, my take.
Yeah, I agree with you on some of the questions, definitely. But the few that Elvira mentioned, for sure, you got to wonder, do they want to expand the noise? Let people build on, Sundays, Saturdays.
Yeah. Special events all over the place, anytime, no control of decibel levels. It's a fun city.
So our time is winding down quickly. I see Kathy's hand up, and then perhaps we will end at about 8:30. So Kathy, there you are.
Thank you for organizing, Randy. I have a comment about what Jeffrey said, and I totally agree with him. We're all concerned about noise, but individually we're just individuals, and as a group we could be a stronger voice, and somehow we need to group together, and but who's going to do it? And that's the part. So Jeffrey, is your suggestion, would you like to organize us?
Well, I thought it was going to be Randy, actually.
Randy's got so much on his plate.
I think it should be Elvira.
Oh, no.
Well, it is actually it is effortless to create a Google email list, at least, for people with the same interest. And people could sign up and just share information that way. City Hall Watch would be happy to share, published articles and stuff, and have a dedicated section on the website. And maybe I know there's a Right to Quiet Society. They have a very good website. I don't know if they are into activism or advocacy, actively dealing with City Hall and stuff, but perhaps Right to Quiet could also do something here too.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe Carl could speak to that. I'm no longer on the board, and I think it's very important that Right to Quiet be closely involved in the whole process to make sure that they're on top of actually tightening rules rather than relaxing them.
Oh, you're muted, Carl. Can't hear you. Oh, there. Just a moment. Let's see.
He has a right to quiet, Randy.
Yes. Let's see if I can turn on his.
Okay. Oh, there.
Oh, there we go. Carl, could you?
Sorry. Thank you very much, Randy, Elvira, and Arlene, and also Jeffrey. But I got a number of comments, but I'm not going to do them all right here, right now. But regarding Right to Quiet, yes, Right to Quiet is into activism, as you say. They've been in it for about 40 years. And a lot of the stuff, as Elvira knows, has come up periodically, but we're a pretty small group. And let me put it this way, I'm pretty new at this. I spent a life in environmental stuff and nothing to do with noise. When I came here, I learned from Hans Schmidt that if you look at legislation around North America, Vancouver's legislation really isn't all that bad. In fact, it's pretty good in some cases. Let me take a very specific example. Jeffrey was talking about leaf blowers. you know, we have leaf blowers in the present legislation. In fact, they're banned in the West End. So not exactly an equitable situation. You have people who are protected by legislation in the West End, and the rest of Vancouver, they're not.
Right.
Now, you can argue about why that is, but it's right there. And the other thing I want to say is we just talked about parks a few minutes ago. Yes, Right to Quiet actually convinced the city to designate those 3 parks. I think it must have been about 30 years ago. You can't find any signage about it anywhere, as far as I know, but it's all there in writing. And I found it quite ironic that last week in Vancouver is Awesome, they quoted a survey of theirs where they asked people, what's the most popular beach? And everybody thought, well, it's going to be Kitsilano, of course. Well, it wasn't by a long shot. You know, which was popular? The most popular was a combo of Locarno and Spanish Banks because they're right next to each other. And those happen to be 2 of the 3 designated quiet beaches. Maybe a coincidence, but that was quite unusual. Well, thank you very much for this evening. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Carl.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I hope to meet you sometime in person, and definitely would like to study more about Right to Quiet Society and stay in touch. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think I should close here now. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
In all your time zones, Arlene in New York and others. I think we had someone today from even Brazil was signed up. So I'll do a little quick report even tomorrow on the website, and then a bit more detail summarizing some of the highlights of the discussion. And we have your emails, so I'll send an email and be very happy to stay in touch and get further suggestions, links, recommendations, and more.
And I'll upload.
Thank you.
YouTube and send it out to everybody.
Okay, thank you. I'll save the chat and stop the recording, and have a good night, everybody. Thank you very much.
Randy.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.